In the last 3 years, 9 teenagers and young adults have killed themselves within the Manasquan area. 6 died in very public ways by putting themselves in the path of speeding commuter trains. 3 others died by hanging. 7 were connected in some way to Manasquan High School, either by attending or having a close relationship with those at the school. Many were high-achieving athletic students with a bright future ahead of them. Each death devastated the 8 small towns that send students to the school.
I'm here in memory of my son Tim today, who took his life on April 26, 2008. Our team, the Timfinite team, is also walking in memory of Andrew Clark, Joe Colton, Drew Kane, Matt Coy, and Kyle Craig.
As the community asked itself the question why, psychologists hired by the school dug deeper into the deaths. Their findings: the Manasquan High School community was a victim of a little understood psychological phenomena called a suicide cluster.
No doubt about it, it was a contagion thing, and it was one of the worst in the countries that we ever had. And the aspect was with that when we look at all of them, I'd have to say in my examination of listening to the stories and getting information, there was depression and all of these situations. And that's nothing to be surprised or ashamed about.
Each death left a family devastated and in search of answers. Some were traced to mental illness, others are not so sure.
He always wanted to be a fireman, and he's one of the few people I know that actually was getting to do what he wanted to do. Here's the Belmar teddy bear we got. I don't know who gave this to us, but my mom gave it to me, and he kind of stays on my bed most of the time.
At the age of 20, Joe Calton Hennahan was eager to start his career as a fireman. Luck was even running his way. The day before his death, Joe won $500 in a scratch-off lottery ticket. That night, he threw himself under a speeding train in Belmar.
Someone wrote on the tracks 82408, rest in peace.
His final message to his father was in a cell phone call. "Dad, I gotta go. I've got to take care of something." That week, a letter arrived telling Joe that he had been hired as a fireman in Jersey City. Joe had been deeply affected by the accidental death of a cousin 4 years earlier in 2004 on the same tracks. He also knew 2 Manasquan High School students who killed themselves on the tracks in 2008. Joe's brother Artie tries to come to terms with the loss in his own way. He now has a tattoo of his brother's face in full fireman regalia on his left arm. He expressed his feelings in a poem about his brother.
It's titled My Brother. I try to write how I feel, but it never comes out right. I try to go to bed early, but instead I cry myself to sleep at night. The night and months that passed have been a blur since you passed on. I still can't come to terms or believe you are gone.
Megan is the sister of 17-year-old Matthew Coy, who killed himself on the tracks of Seagirt in October of 2009. The family believes Matt, a high achiever at Manasquan High School, killed himself because of the side effects from an acne medication called Accutane.
Acne was one thing that he thought ruined his whole image, so even though it wasn't that bad, it was just like high school hormone acne, normal. He had heard of Accutane from friends that had taken it and had really great reactions to it, and we just think that he took the medicine and it messed up his brain chemistry and there wasn't really any signs because he wasn't depressed, and something that day was just an impulse reaction from the medicine that made him sort of in a blackout haze, that he wasn't himself and he wasn't thinking, and he just had a moment that was tragic.
Matthew and his sister had spoken about the previous 4 suicides.
Me and Matt had definitely had a few conversations just about how it was so sad and how we couldn't believe this was happening, and another one, and just kind of the same reactions that the whole community has had, why and how are we going to stop this, and we just never saw it coming from him. Everybody feels uncomfortable with this subject, but it has to be talked about.
The night that Christopher took his life, I got the phone call in the morning, and my brother said, Christopher's dead, he killed himself. And I couldn't believe it. I said, this is not happening. I wasn't ready for this. We were going to help him. He called us all the other times. He called us. Why didn't he call us this time?
Chris Kowalski died in 2009 from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in Neptune City. While not officially listed as being part of the suicide cluster in nearby Manasquan, the 23-year-old's death led to his family speaking out about the need for families to come to terms with mental illness and to find ways to help families that are victimized by depression.
There was nobody to help us understand what Chris was going through. We didn't understand the issues. We didn't know what the face of depression looked like. We didn't know what the face of anxiety looked like. And we certainly didn't know the signs of a suicidal person.
For much of his life, Chris battled a bipolar disorder that sent him into deep depressions and a previous suicide attempt.
And that's what's so ironic about someone who commits suicide. You look back and you say there's so much of them inside of them where they were an example of a happy life and somebody that was really enjoying their life. So how could they end it so abruptly? And I think people that commit suicide have this internal dark struggle between life and death. And I think that idea is always spinning in the back of their head that if things get too hard, I can just check out. I can just check out.
These people were really feeling a severe depression, and we have problems dealing with depression as adults, but we even find it much more difficult to realize adolescents can be depressed, and even children.
The suicide cluster has brought too many deaths to the Manasquan area. 9 dead in 3 years, but the community did not sit back helpless.
The 1-year anniversary of Tim's death, we made a decision to hold an event, and the theme of it was to embrace life and celebrate life. And I think we should all make that decision today and every day. So here's to celebrating life. I'm proud to say that I'm happy to get up in the morning. I miss my son terribly, but I get pleasure by watching my other children thriving, basking in the sun, and knowing I'm surrounded by great people.
On Friday, December 11, 2009, David Schenk, the younger brother of a cluster suicide victim, helped start the Life is Good rally in Manasquan High School. Since the first Manasquan High School suicide in April of 2008, that of David's brother Timothy, more than half of the student body has graduated and moved on. The last suicide of a student was 2009, that of Matt Coy, but the deaths did not stop then. The older brother of a student killed himself on the tracks in 2010, and a 19-year-old woman from nearby Point Pleasant drove in front of a train in April of 2011, not far from where Timothy Schenk died. Her friends feel her suicide may have been triggered by a failed relationship.
The first candle we light is in memory of those we have lost to suicide.
If you can deal with this openly, wipe away senseless guilt and shame, and realize to be free by talking about it, that you're going to heal much more as a family, but look what you're going to do to be able to help others, to free others from the shackles of this.
The second candle we light is for courage, to honor those who struggle with mental illness, to confront our own struggles, and to comfort each other and to change our lives.
The third candle we light is for hope. We light this candle as a beacon of hope so that when we see the light shine, it brings us out of the darkness and we know we are never alone.